So yeah, now to get to part three, um, of this exact issue, you have to realize something that, honestly, if people don't know what they're doing, they're not gonna have much fun. You're not gonna have much fun, to be honest with you. And that's what I've noticed about this world. This world's so cold. Everybody just pretty much says, why don't you get this and stuff. This is why so many people go to special education classes. Because honestly, in the mainstream classes, they just simply say, oh, do this, do that. Who cares? And this is why everything sucks. Why everything sucks so much. The more you can get people more enthusiastic about things, you create more people more enthusiastic about things, the less likely things will be the way that they currently are. And to get back to the pacifist issue, this was related to the pacifist issue, but getting straight back to the pacifist issue in itself is that just in general, whenever there's the end of a war, there's always talk about things, people discuss about paying off debts and all that sort of stuff. But and I'm not trying to say that we should have a pacifist who goes in camera and say, screams and shouts to the world, you know what, we're gonna do this, we're gonna, we're gonna get the people interested. But they should enact policies to influence people, to do more, to be honest with you, because they don't really get people to do much. And the problem with them, I think, in general, is that they're the type of people that whenever you watch a war movie or something, that for fun, they always have to be the most critical people. And when I'm talking about pacifists, I'm not just talking about the ones in government. I'm talking about them in general, who share that ideology. Like they just get everybody, like they just know how to make every situation so boring, so boring, to be honest with you. And in general, they just don't put enough effort into their mindset and getting people to do something, and I think to really, really, really get to this point, is that in general, if you're gonna have a government, if you're gonna have a period of time without combat, without warfare, without combat, without warfare, what are people going to do? You know what? Just return to their jobs, their boring 9 to 5 jobs that doesn't offer much excitement. That doesn't offer much excitement, because this is the problem with them, is that they're focused on more safety and comfort instead of entertainment. Instead of entertainment, to be honest with you, because once you have entertainment, that's what makes people more enthusiastic about life, and they don't offer that, to be honest with you. They don't ever discuss those sorts of issues, to be honest with you. you know um they don't ever discuss those types of issues, to be honest with you. Because honestly, that's what they should focus on, is for the people out there who just don't have much going on, like, how can we get them to be interested in something else? Like, just in general, they just don't do a good job at what they do. To be honest with you, everything they do sucks. Everything they do sucks, and they exaggerate the effects of war, and they try so hard to, and it's the problem with their ideology as a whole, is that it views the world in just a one-way perspective, that without war everything's peaceful, everything's quiet, nothing is, everything goes smoothly. But it's not true. It's not true. It's not true, to be honest with you. Because the thing about war, I think that's the issue, is that when a war happens, people feel like they, just in general, they have something to create. They have something to do. But when there's no war, what do they do? I know people will say that they create the fame thing, but I think the biggest issue, to really, really get to the biggest issue, is the price of how much they make things to be. But the reason why the price is so much is because there's a scarcity of quality of things. It's because there's a scarcity of quality of things. That's why, you want to know why, the real reason why, when you go to places and you eat anything that's above mediocre, it's so freaking expensive. It's because there's a very small portion of people who actually know how to create things in better quality, and then you have the stupid rich people who just make everything expensive, at least some of them are stupid, who just make everything super duper expensive, because it gets boring over time, like we live the same lives, like you just go to, like, like you just do this, you listen to the same music that doesn't really improve. It's all about love anyway. It doesn't offer anything different, which falls in the whole ideology that life is all about love and love and love, which is not true. There's more to love than not want. They don't diversify, and everybody who knows anything about music knows that music's a very powerful tool to control people, at least for people who are into it. Like, we just have the same mediocre lives, like going to the same places, eating the same foods, like going to Pizza Hut, and or maybe all McDonald's, and people just loitering there, which just means just staying there for all the time and stuff, staying there all the time and stuff. There's not really enough stuff that happens on TV. The TV is filled with reruns, you know they, and just in general, they don't present anything that's positive in an interesting light. Like, they say, oh well, somebody saved somebody's life, and all that sort of stuff, but they don't present anything in an interesting light. Why don't they present learning how to create things in a more interesting light? Why don't they present uh places in the world, different places in the world, in a more interesting light, to be honest with you? They don't focus on that, and the media does not focus on that sort of stuff, and I'll focus on that sort of stuff, because here's the difference. Okay, of course, every place you go to has a history of violence, and you would have to get used to that violence, and but there's still a difference between being more interested in the world and just being interested in just bomb 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 bomb, because if there's actually something interesting, you would get a better idea of the things that you like in your life, the things that you like in your life. Like, which type of person are you? Are you an enthusiast into this? Are you an enthusiast into that? Are you into snowboarding? And what are the interesting facts about snowboarding? Because if there's one thing I can tell you, that there was no violence for that. What about what are all the cool things you could do for snowboarding? What are all the cool mountains you can go down upon? What are all different conditions that you can do? What if you're interested in surfing? What are all the interesting conditions about surfing? What are the interesting facts, about it, like such as the tide and all that sort of stuff. But despite this information, you don't want to forget that war is a part of life, because they have a classic story, because this my story I'm bringing up is a classic story, the classic phenomenon. This is what pacifists don't realize that they're falling into, is a classic war society versus the uh pacifistic creative society. And I just pretty much just mention a more creative society, but at the same time, you have to realize that I don't want to be a part of just creating a more creative society, because there was in the Caribbean these two tribes known as the Carib and the Arawak. I used to do random searches on Wikipedia, and the Arawak were very peaceful, very artistic people, but the Carib were very, very warlike, and they had a lot of issues with each other. The Iraqs had a lot of people who were kidnapped. This was in the Caribbean before the Christopher Columbus days. And you know what they eventually did? Because they eventually grew tired of all the conflicts, and they realized one side actually lived a pleasurable life, pleasurable life, and another side was just filled with war, but they were very comfortable. They didn't have to worry about anybody messing with them. You know, you know, they decided to merge, and they decided to merge their tribe into one. And I think they eventually adopted the title of Carib or something. I do remember that. And this is what I think that our society needs to realize, is that you have to have war. You have to have conflict, You do have to have well, I shouldn't say war, but you do have to have people who protect your society because because trust me, man, if things are going well enough, there's going to be someone who's going to try to ruin it. It's inevitable. Because if you're thinking about keeping us a civilization functioning, you're not focusing on 1 year, and 1 year enough things happen. You're focusing on possibly indefinitely for 500, 1,000 years or something. That's what you're focusing on. But people don't think about that, and there's a division between it, and there's a left right paradigm, and that's why things suck. And just remember that we really do have to merge those two, and that's all I have to say.